Alright, in the second part of this video, or these videos, we're going to look a little bit more at quadratic equations and equations that may not look initially like that basic form that you're used to, but we're going to introduce some tricks that can help you solve more complicated looking equations. So the trick in this video is going to be redefining variables to get the equation into some useful form. Okay, so we've got that ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 form. We want to try to get all of our equations, or we want to try to get our equations, if possible, to look like that. So what we can do is, by using some fancy tricks, very simple, we can get a lot of our equations to look like that. So let's look at an example here. Here we've got the equation. We've got this fairly complicated looking equation. We've got x plus 15 squared minus 3, x plus 15 minus 18 equals 0. Okay. Well, what we notice is we've got this x plus 15 here and this x plus 15 squared here. Well, we can just choose, let's choose a new variable, a, that is equal to x plus 15. Okay, we can do this, it's just a, we can do this however we want. X is a variable, we can redefine a new variable anytime we'd like, so long as we're consistent. Okay, so now we've got a equals x plus 15. Now we're going to substitute that into our original equation, and we get a squared minus 3a minus 18 equals 0, which is just the quadratic equation. And this we know how to solve, right? This was fairly straightforward, we saw in the last video. This one we can actually factor, so if I can factor it, I'm going to do so. Otherwise, look back at the previous videos for the general solution for this. Okay, and so we factored, or we can use the equation, like I said. And this leads us to two solutions, as we expected, because our highest power was x squared. If we sort of multiply this squared in here, we'd end up with some, x squared plus something x plus constant. Okay, so our highest power is x squared. And we ended up with two solutions, a equals 6 and a equals minus 3. But we're not done yet, right? We've got a solution for a, but now we need to get our solution in terms of x. So we just plug in a equals 6 into our equation, or how we defined a up here. And we see that x equals -9. Or we could do it again, and we do it again for the other variable, -3 equals x plus 15, which turns out to be x equals minus 18. So we've got two solutions for our quadratic, which is exactly what we expected. Good. Now let's look at another one. This is a little bit less obvious. Look, now we've got an x to the 4th term up here and an x squared here. Okay, so this isn't a quadratic equation. But again, we can redefine a variable. Let's choose a to equal x squared. And now we're going to substitute that into our equation, which gives us a squared minus 6a plus 8. Okay, so if a equals x squared, then x to the 4th equals a squared. X squared just equals a. So now we've got this in terms of a, which is our quadratic equation again. And again, this is very straightforward to solve. This one again we can factor, so I'm just going to go ahead and do so. And this leads us to two solutions for a, as we would expect, because this is a quadratic equation. We get a equals 2 and a equals 4. But now we have to go back and plug that into our x value, plug that back into this so we can get a solution in terms of x. So our first equation, we have x squared equals 2, which leads us to two solutions, right? Because this is also a quadratic, so it should have two solutions. So we've got plus and minus the square root of 2. So we've got two solutions there. Let's do it again for our other value for a, x squared equals 4, and we get plus or minus 2. Okay, so two more solutions for a grand total of 4 solutions, which we should have seen right from the very beginning, because our equation is the highest order is a 4th order term. Okay, so we should have 4 solutions, which is exactly what we end up with. So again, this is why it's nice to have this in the back of your mind. You want to know, okay, I started off with a 4th order term or equation, or a 3rd order equation, so I should expect that many solutions out at the end. That way you know to kind of keep going, or check your work somewhere. Good. All right, now here's a doozy. Okay, so again, the first thing we're going to see here, look, we've got this term here and this term here are both consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and define a as being x squared plus 2x. Okay, so more complicated value, but that's fine. I can do this. Rewrite it in terms of a, which gives us our quadratic equation, a squared minus 11a plus 24 equals 0. And now I'm just going to factor this again. I could factor it or use the equation, which leads me to two solutions for a. So we've got a equals 8 and a equals 3. You should be able. This should be fairly straightforward for you. So if you're, so make sure you pause the video if you need to and check it out on your own. But I'm assuming you're fairly comfortable with this stuff at this point. Okay, so now I've got two solutions for a, and now I need to plug it back into how I, find a in terms of x. And what we see is that we end up with another quadratic equation. So this equation is a bit of work, right? We had to solve an equation quadratic once, and now a second time. Okay, we've got a general quadratic form right here, and I can solve this again in terms of factoring it, and I'm led to two solutions, x equals 2 and x equals minus 4. Now I've got another quadratic, so 3 quadratics in this solution, using my other solution for a here. And I can factor that, x plus 3 times x minus 1, which gives me 2 more values. And again, I just want to highlight we have 4 solutions here. That should be, it's a little bit less obvious here, but if you would basically see that if you square this term in here, you should end up with an x to the 4th power in there. So 2, you basically factor it in. That's not directly how you do it, but you can see that your highest order here should be a 4th order term. So you should end up with 4 solutions. So again, always good to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay. So this is a pretty tricky one here. I had to solve the quadratic 3 times, but we see that with these tricks, it makes these problems no problem at all. Okay. In the next video, we're going to look at graphing these solutions. So hold on for the next video.